So the next thing I wanted to show you is the PM 2.5 data that we've imported. I'm not going to go through every single one of these reports for PM 2.5 since it's relatively the same process as it is for ozone, but I did want to show you in a little bit more detail what happens when there is a gap in your data. So that's what we're going to focus on with the PM 2.5 data. So let's change this to PM 2.5. And for PM 2.5, I collected data in 2015, so I need to select 2015. And again, the state range populates by everything that's in the archive table in 2015. So now I want to see if there's any gaps in my PM 2.5 data in this particular range. So let's click on this button. And instead of the box that we got with our ozone data that says there was not any gaps, it says there are gaps. So this gives you kind of a long message, but all it's telling you is that there's 2 pollutant records that are missing from the range selected. And it says, if you want the toolbox to add temporary zero value records with qualifier of GP, click OK. And then it tells you this might take a little while. Again, for 2 weeks of data, it doesn't take very long, but if you're talking months of data, this is going to take a while. So we're going to add these blank records to our data and see what happens. So again, like I said, it didn't take very long because we only have 2 weeks of data, and it said it's added 0 value records for every gap in your pollutant data. So we say OK, and now I want to see what it added. So remember, it said it added data with a flag of GP. So I need to click on Report Hourly Concentrations and see where those gaps are added. So if I go to the second page, you'll notice here that we have some GP data. So it added these records with 0 values. So that's how it looks when it adds those data. So if you look at the chart, you can see here, it's hard to see when there's a lot of data, but we can see this little gap here, and that's where it added those records that were not logged on a data logger. This big gap here, that's where we invalidated the data. That was due to that tape error that was happening with my imaginary PM 2.5 data, and that's why you have this big gap here. So that's what it does. That's how it adds gaps to your data. So what would that look like if I hadn't done it? So remember, I said this is temporary. So if I exit out this form and go back in, those gaps that it filled are going to be gone. So let's look at how it looked before I added those gaps. So if I exit out of the form and reopen it, we're going to see that data without the gap fill. So let's just take a look at it. We're looking at PM 2.5 data with a sampling year of 2015. And let's look at the report when we didn't do that. So let's take a look at the report. And remember, it was on the second page. So let's see what happens. So here's what happens. Instead of gap filling, those are just missing. So we're actually missing the 10 and 11 o'clock hour. So it goes from 9 to 12. That's without gap filling. That's what the reports look like. How do the charts look? Let's take a look. So you'll see there's no gap. We're going to look at this in a little bit more detail. Let's just look at 1 day of data. So I believe it was on the 6th that gap filling happened. Let's take a look at the chart. So notice here, from 9 to 12, we're actually missing 10 and 11. So there's no gap in our chart. I think it's very misleading because it looks like the data just continued. So that's why I recommend doing the gap filling, just because I think it's a bit misleading to show it like this. I'm just going to gap fill again and show you just the day of the chart so you can see a difference in the day. So let's just gap fill again. Okay. Let's look at that chart again. Now we see the gap in the data. So that's why you would gap fill, just to make your charts a little bit more meaningful and indicate that these values were not logged on 10 and 11.
I use the reports and chart basically also as a query. So that export in spreadsheet format button can be really helpful if you just want to get a bunch of data and look at it, say in Excel. Just use those reports and charts and then export in spreadsheet format, and then boom, you've got your data, whatever combination of data you're looking at in Excel. So that's just another function that you could use a lot on that page, even in addition to the existing reports and charts.